What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Rad back with another video. And today we're going to take a dive into a video that's gone viral on the internet from a rad lad, a young 20-something-year-old Gen Z man that talks about why young people love old things. As of the filming of this video, it's currently at over 430,000 views. And it's from Genuine Curiosity. If you haven't seen it, I'll link to it in the description below so you can go watch it in its entirety after you watch this video. But he hits up 5 key points that we're going to go over today. So if you've ever geeked out on vinyl and VHS or cassette tapes like I do, this kid breaks down as to why younger people like it also. Stick around.
All I need are some tasty waves, cool buzz, and I'm fine.
So I said this is a video of a guy that's in his early 20s, and it's someone living this trend, not just observing it. I mean, he is fully immersed in the experience of not just being trendy, but actually living the experience of these items that he has, and goes over why younger people are into mixtapes and rotary phones or vinyl and stuff like that. And I have to tell you, he puts it in a way that I've been trying to talk about it for a long time, trying to pinpoint how to say it. This kid hits a nail on the head. So let's get into point number one.
No one right answer for why people like the things that they do. I have my own reasons for liking old things. Other people might have their own reasons for liking old things. And this is a topic that can be talked about forever. But if you ask me why I like old things and why I think all these other people, all these other younger people do too, I think the first thing I would mention is five. The five senses. You got sight, hearing, smell, touch, and okay, maybe just the first four, yeah. Um all this old stuff, at least when it comes to objects, they're tactile. You can interact with them on a physical way. You know, all the clicks and dials and buttons and doohickeys, thingamabobs, whatchamacallits, whatever. And when you consider that I mostly grew up with this.
So he talks about tactile, meaning the touches. So all of us that are Gen X, even millennials and older, we know how it feels to touch the items, like to go into like my rad cave and then search for the perfect VHS that I feel like watching that night. Taking that VHS, sliding the VHS out of it, going to the VCR, physically pushing the tape into the VCR to where it accepts it and push play or it plays itself, and then you wait for it to pop up on the screen. All of those things are tactile. Or when it comes to a video game, being able to take that cartridge out of its sleeve and ram it into the game system, right? And then to the click of the TV to be able to hear that sound, or it's a push button or a pull knob, how some of the older TVs are. And then the little line that pops out, and then it starts out real low and then gets brighter as the TV gets hotter. Once again, just an experience that sticks with you. Or, one of my newer things is the laser disc. You flip through them, and most of these I have on VHS as well. Um, but then you're able to go through it and look how beautiful the covers are. They're big, they're bright, they're the size of an album. But it's always about that artwork. It's just, to me, it's beautiful and it's art, and I get to hold it in my hand, and then to put it in, eject the big tray to fit this heavy, massive size DVD like item, and then to close it, and then hear all the gears moving, and of course, picking that vinyl record and taking it out of its sleeve. And then you turn on your stereo. Not only do you have to power it on, but then you have to click it on phono, because it might be on auxiliary or CD or receiver, and click it on phono, pop the record on there, lift the needle, or push the button and let it do it. I like to do it manually. That's just me. And then of course the old cassette tape, you know, going to your cassette, opening up the jewel case, popping the tape out, the sound of the eject button, opening up the tray to put the tape in. Make sure you put it in the right way, because some go upside down, some go right side up. and then push and play, listening, and then the sound of that stop button, that click noise, is all about the tactical experience that this young man is talking about.
Now, I've had older people tell me, "Oh, why would you want to go back and use all that old junk I was forced to use when I was growing up? Things are so much better now. You can access anything at any time, anywhere. Why would you ever want to revert back?" Well, now all this unlimited information, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, but a lot of times it feels like a monsoon. It's so much. Since you can know everything all at once, it just can be a bit much. Sometimes I feel like Ben Stiller in Night of the Museum when Attila the Hun is trying to rip him limb from limb. It's just complete decision paralysis when it comes to the endless void of the internet. But using things pre internet, it takes me away from that. It gives my mind a break. And all these things, listening to music on vinyl, taking film photos, using a typewriter, it just calms my mind. And it takes it away from that ever widening dark pit that the internet can sometimes be.
So yeah, he hit the nail on the head there, which is what I was just explaining after the first point. Is that when I do stream, because I do, when I do look to try to find something, it's just an endless supply of, in my opinion, 90% shit movies. And then, you find the nuggets in there that are good. And they're typically ones that I've seen before because they're older movies and I know that they're good. There's just something about um, having too much access to movies and music. Picking a VHS or a DVD, you're forced to just put in that movie and watch it. Or if you put on a vinyl, you have an A side and you have a B side. It's not that easy to skip to the next song. You have to get up and physically move the needle on the line that you see before the next song starts. So you pretty much listen to the whole album, and then when it's over, you get up and you flip it over, and you're okay with that. It just calms me, and he hits the nail on the head with that. To where I've often said that about the nostalgia that the stuff that I collect. It calms me. It's like my zen. It's my form of meditation to be able to go through the processes of grabbing those things, putting them in, watching or listening. Now, I do not have a camera that takes film, so kudos to him. I need to do that because that would be pretty cool to do. And I don't have a typewriter. I've wanted to get one, but even some of these thrift stores are wanting way too much money for them, and I don't honestly know how to fix them.
My dad used to tell me stories about when he was my age. He would buy all these cool old muscle cars for cheap, you know. He had a Camaro and a Smoking the Bandit Trans Am, and he would swap the engine and fix up these cars right in my grandmother's driveway. And as a little kid, my mind was always blown that he could take an engine out of a car and put a new one in all just in a weekend. But those older cars just appear to be so much simpler to work on compared to any car I've ever owned today. If you buy a new car now, it's almost impossible to work on. But any of those older cars, I mean, you could read through the owner's manual and fully understand your vehicle.
So yeah, the simplicity of it, right? Um, we all know that obviously technology's changed, right? Things get they get bigger, maybe not better. I did a video before about planned obsolescence, and I think that's what he is touching on here without maybe knowing it or knowing the term or just not talking about it. But planned obsolescence is where the powers that be conspire to deliberately make things to fail quicker so you can go and buy it again, thus them making more money. It started with the light bulb. You can go and do the history of that because there's still one light bulb, I believe. It's either in a Chicago or New York fire department that's been literally lit for or on for over 100 years and hadn't burned out. But they got together, all of the light bulb manufacturers got together and said, you know what, we're never going to make any money if we keep making these things like this. So, thus, light bulbs blowing out a lot easier. So, they were simpler to work on. Yes, maybe a car back then isn't as fast out of the gate of cars nowadays, but you can still take those older cars with some tinkering and really make them fast. And they're a lot easier to work on. My '87 Supra that I have been restoring is actually pretty technological for its time. There's a lot of I guess I don't want to say computer components, but there's a lot of electronics in there that makes it harder for us. But getting the manual and looking through it, they teach you how to rebuild or take apart your car and put it back together versus taking it to the service department. And these things are so much easier to work on, to where, like my friend Justin's, he's able to take a VCR and it doesn't work, and then take it apart and grease some stuff here and add a rubber band here or a band and get the thing to work. Um, Stereo systems, speakers, all of these things, there's people out there that can fix them nowadays with planned obsolescence. If it breaks, if your washer and dryer breaks within the last 10 years, it's literally cheaper for you to go throw it away and buy a new one than it is to hire somebody to fix it. And they do that by design. So I collect not only a lot of old things, but not just because of the nostalgia of it, but because I know they work and they last. My stereo system is a pretty badass stereo system from the '80s and '90s because it's kind of a combo, and that thing rocks. These speakers that I recently got last week were handmade in 1960, and from a gentleman still alive, but he sold them, made them out of mahogany, right? So there's not mahogany veneer; they're solid panels of mahogany, and those sons of bitches are heavy. You open up the back, and there's a Utah ceramic speaker in there. I didn't even know what that was. Apparently, they were part or partnered with Fender, and I got those things rewired and got them hooked up to my stereo system, and they absolutely bang. So stuff like that. See, even I like to collect things that were from before I was even born. So I was born in the '70s. These things were made sometime in the '60s, and guess what? They still completely kick ass.
And it's such a nice feeling knowing that. It feels like they're fully mine.
I think that pretty much sums it up. I found it at Spencer Gifts.
Streaming services: Netflix, Spotify, Disney Plus, Peacock, all of them that are way too expensive and really annoying. In a lot of ways, they're great. I mean, who doesn't want everything on demand? But in recent years, they've been adding more ads and raising the prices and then adding more ads on top of that. And it's all just kind of culminating into what cable TV used to be, but in a way more expensive way. And the best part is, at any time, your favorite comfort movie? Gone. That song your parents used to sing to you when you were a little kid? Removed. You don't have control over whatever is on one of these platforms. So for me, and I think a lot of other people, it's nice to know that if I buy a vinyl record or an old VHS or DVD of a movie, no one's coming to take that away.
And that's exactly how I feel about the things that I collect. Ownership of these items is king in a subscription world nowadays. Everything is a subscription. South Park even did their one episode of the streaming wars, and it's not cheap anymore. I mean, we used to bitch about cable prices back in the day, um, of paying $100 a month. But that was kind of right when the internet was coming out. And then when the internet was coming out, it wasn't as internet was a lot cheaper. It was a lot slower. So you weren't streaming stuff, but your cable was your lifeline, right? You watched cable all the time. But now, in order to stream, you have to have the internet. And those plans can range from 50 to over $100, depending on if you're way out in the country or if you're in town, but it's a crappy service, and then you upgrade to fiber. I think I pay $65, $70 a month, and it's okay. I would like it to be faster, especially in the upload speed. Download's fine, but upload needs to be better for uploading YouTube videos. But it's something that adds up when you add it to the cost of your internet bill. It's $10 for this subscription, $10 for this subscription, $10 for this subscription. And most of the time you're subscribing for one show that you really like. Like Netflix for me was Cobra Kai and Stranger Things. Um, Disney Plus is, say, the new Daredevil, right? So you get stuck buying these subscription plans. And then, once they're gone, they're gone. When you own an album, unless somebody comes and steals it from me, it's mine. If you own a game, it's mine. I have it in a physical form, a VHS, a cassette, a vinyl, um, my clothing, my vintage clothing that I like, right? Not that anybody's getting, well, you do get subscription clothing now too, right? Um, isn't there a website where you can rent something to go out and then you send it back? I don't know.
Nostalgia, I think, is the biggest reason for all this. Because, I mean, who doesn't want to relive a happy memory you had from when you were a kid? There's pretty much an entire industry of nostalgia, especially recently with all these never ending movie remakes and reboots being made. It's a huge reason why the phrase, what's old is new, exists. And my generation is just getting to the age where we're starting to reminisce about our childhood. But it doesn't fully explain why we seem to like things older than our own memories. And my answer to that is I think there's just something about using a thing that was part of everyday history from 50 or 100 years ago that allows you to live the same experience that the original owner of that thing would experience in a time that is now part of history. But at one time, you know, it was just life.
I mean, isn't that awesome? That just hits the nail for me because that's how I've been trying to verbally explain nostalgia. There's videos of, it's a psychological thing now that I've seen on YouTube. Um, and some of them make it seem like it's a bad thing, but it is living history. It's something that you can touch. As I said before, even me, I like to collect things from the past. We live in a home that was built in 1950 and it hasn't been changed since 1950. Now it's a specific style that we love, and there's a reason why we've left it unchanged. Even though I love the 80s, I love mid-century modern. I absolutely think it's beautiful. So every day I walk into my house, I feel like the gentleman who built the house in 1950 for his family. The room that I'm in now that I use as an office was one of his sons. The art room that my wife has her, or the room where my wife has her art room, was the daughter's room. And then the other son has the rad cave, right? So we're in living history, and there's just something about being able to um, share in the past with those items. Um, I have, things from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s that I use on a daily basis that back then, we considered stuff, but now are just super cool to use. We definitely took things for granted. I know as growing up in the 80s, we complained about things, and then when the internet came out, we were like, wow. Then we got mad about dial up, right? When just a couple years before, the internet didn't exist for us and it started to change us, right? That's when we started to be, I feel, ungrateful on some of the things that we grew up with, to where now, once we get past a certain level, we begin to reminisce about the past. So I don't see the nostalgia, or as Gen X POV's last video talked about, how it's called Peter Panning, where we want to stay young forever. It's just something that does make you feel good, yes. But what's wrong with reliving a great memory or a happy memory from the past? So, what do you think? I think he absolutely crushed it. And again, I'm going to have his video linked in the description so you can go and watch the whole thing in its entirety. I think it was a great video, and it was able to actually help me clarify and put into words some of the things that I've been thinking for a while, but just didn't quite know how to put it in to words. And I'm so glad to see that this guy, I have to say, shout out, he has to have a pretty awesome dad. Now his dad might be a Gen X, he could be a boomer, you never know. But you got a pretty awesome dad that rebuilds car engines and takes his son to car shows and whatnot to see things like that. So shout out to that rad dad, right? So again, if this is the type of stuff that you like, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're new, subscribe to the channel, share the channel. And with that said, I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.